In this video lesson, we will discuss about the first part of our prelim web for the web application development 2. In this course, we're going to discuss the fundamentals of ASP.NET MVC. Ang ASP.NET MVC for start ay dinevelop ni Microsoft. Okay? For the purpose of web application development framework built on top of Microsoft sa popular nature, no? So, ito kasi yung mga older framework na na-develop na niya, .NET framework and the ASP.NET MVC, yan yung bagong framework, no, na nasa in-integrate nila dito sa older framework nila. Okay? So, ang ASP.NET MVC framework ay magagamit natin by using the Visual Studio 2011 or an advanced version, no? So, para makapag-create tayo ng fully functioning na ASP.MVC web application, kailangan natin mag-install ng Visual Studio, no, sa ating laptop or PC. Okay? So, tayo yung developer at pag-aaralan natin kung paano mag-develop ng isang web application using Visual Studio. And sa loob ng Visual Studio, ang ginagamit kasi niya ay itong si MVC. Okay? So, yun ang didiscusin natin. Yung, ano yung uses ng MVC at kung paano siya ginagamit, no? For developing web application. Okay? So, understanding the past can be a big help, no? So, intindihin muna natin kung saan galing, no, si MVC and how it works, no? So, una muna, ang purpose kasi ng Microsoft ay magkaroon ng Windows-based web development platform. Okay? Sa kanyang framework. Okay? So, yung history niya is nagsimula sa ASP. Ito na yung simula ng ASP. Yan, ASP. Yan yung una niyang framework. So, ang ibig sabihin ng ASP, Active Server Pages. No? Microsoft first answer to web development. It is a scripting language in which code and markup are authored together in a single file. So yung code daw at yung markup, ibig sabihin yung code and then yung library niya, no, yung needed, no, library needed para mag-function yung code, no, ay magkasama sa isang file, no? So with each physical file corresponding to a page in the website. Okay, so isang file ay isang page, isang web page, no? So, ASP server side, okay, pag sinabing server side, tumatakbo siya, no, do sa isang device na nagfa-function na sa server, no? So, server side scripting approach became widely popular and many websites grew out of it, no? Because of ASP's function, no, server side function. Some of these sites continue to serve visitors today. After a while, developers wanted more. They asked for features such as improved code reuse, better separation of concerns, and easier applications of object-oriented programming principles, or the OOP. Okay? And then, in 2002, Microsoft offered ASP.NET as a solution to this concern. So, pinagsama nila si .NET framework at saka itong si ASP. So, they have the ASP.NET. Ibig sabihin na pinagsama on top of the .NET framework, sinama nila yung at that time yung bago nilang framework, no, na ASP. So, as a result, no, they come up with the ASP.NET Web Forms. Okay, so ano yung web forms? So, websites rely on a page-based approach where each page on the website is represented in the form of a physical file called a web form. So it is the same with the ASP, no? But it is accessible, no? Using that file's name. Unlike page using ASP, a web form, ito yung difference nilang dalawa, a web form page provides some separation of code and markup. So magkahiwalay na sa web forms, no? Sa ASP page kasi, magkasama pa sila in a single file. Sa web form, separate na, no? So one for the markup, one for the code, no? So ASP.NET and the web forms approach serve developers' needs for many years, no? But later on, syempre, nag-a-advance yung ating technology. Okay, maraming needs na dapat i-come up at saka i-resolve. Yan, okay? They have to develop again, no, the .NET, ASP.NET, no? So the web forms para sa ibang developer daw approach, the web forms approach became too much of an abstraction. Pag sinabi abstraction, medyo hindi na related or compatible, no, dun sa mga design, new design na nag-brought up because of the new technology, no, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Okay? So, nagkaroon na naman ng need, no, para i-develop. Okay? And so, they come up with the ASP.NET MVC. So, Microsoft was quick to spot the growing need in the ASP.NET developer community for something different. So, ito na nga yung ginawa nila. No? ASP.NET MVC, nilabas nila yan in 2008. Representing a total departure from the web forms approach. So, yung ASP.NET MVC, hindi na sila nag-base sa principles ng web forms, no? So, it abandons the page-based structure or architecture completely, relying on the model view controller architecture instead. So, kung nag-develop sila ng bagong architecture, yung model view controller, no? So, yun yung ating didiscussen kung ano yung tatlong yan, no? Yung MVC. Okay? So, ano yung difference natin? Okay? So, unlike ASP.NET Web Forms, which was introduced as a replacement to its predecessor, ASP.NET, MVC does not in any way replace the existing web forms, no? So, hindi naman niya, although hindi siya naka-base doon, pero hindi tinanggal ni Microsoft ang web forms dun sa .NET framework, no? So, magkasabay silang nag-i-exist. So, pag ini-install mo yung Visual Studio mo, nag-install ka ng Visual Studio sa yung laptop, nandun si web forms, nandun din si ASP.NET. Tumatakbo sila sa isang API, no? Common Web API. Okay? So, the idea is that ASP.NET, MVC, and web forms are just different ways of making an ASP.NET is a common theme, no? So, alin man doon sa dalawa, ang iyong gamitin, still under, no, ng ASP.NET framework. So, ano yung model view controller architecture? Model view controller pattern is an architectural pattern that encourages strict isolation between the individual parts of an application. So, kung sa ASP.NET, no, web forms ay magkahiwalay yung hindi na siya single file, ay dito naman pinaghiwa-hiwalay na talaga nila, no? Ayan, no, between individual parts. Okay? So, tatlo yon, model view controller, no? This isolation is better known as separation of concern. So, yun ang kanyang principle, no? Or loose coupling. Okay? Virtually all aspects of MVC and consequently the ASP.NET MVC framework are driven by this goal of keeping the disparate parts of an application isolated from each other, no? Architecting applications in a loose coupled manner brings a number of both short and long-term benefits. Number one, development. Individual components do not directly depend on other components. Okay? So, pag magde-develop ka, individually yung pagde-develop mo, no? So, ang advantage nun is kapag may problema dun sa dinevelop mong part, yung part lang na yon, no? Yung components lang na yon yung maapektuhan at yun lang yung gagawin mo. Next, we have the testability loose coupling components allows test implementations to stand in for production components. This makes it easier to say avoid making calls to a database by replacing the components that makes the database calls with one that simply returns static data. So, na-identify na niya kung ano yung mga data, no, sa sa bawat components, no, at kung meron siyang itetest, hindi magi-involve nung whole database, no, kung ano lang yung nakakonect doon sa components na itetest mo. Maintenance. Isolated component. Logic means that changes are typically isolated to small number of components, no. So ito yung related dito sa development, no, advantage, no. So kung may nasirang component, yung component na lang yun ang gagawin mo at yun lang ang maapektuhan, no. Hindi lahat ng component kasi hiwa-hiwalay sila, no. They are individually developed. The MVC pattern splits an application into 3 layers: the model, the view, and the controller. So the model, the view, and the controller are the layers, no. So each of these layers has specific job that it is responsible for, and most important, it is not concerned with how the other players do their jobs. So ito yung ating figure representing the 3 layers: model, view, and controller. So the model represents, okay, the model represents the business logic and data. So nandito, ito yung nag-hold ng ating data. Okay? Si model. Okay, so kung ano man yung relationship ng mga data, yun yung logic. Okay? So the models encapsulate o siya yung naghahawak ng the properties and behavior of domain entity. So and expose properties that describe the entity. Yun yung mga features niya, yung mga functions. Okay? For example, yung auction is represents the concept of an auction in the application and may expose properties such as title and current bid. So yung title, current bid, yun yung properties or function ng nung object na or class na auction, no? Okay? So ano naman yung view? The view is responsible for transforming a model or models into a visual representation. Okay? So ito naman yung nagdi-display sa screen, no? Yun yung trabaho niya. Okay? So ito yung nagde-generate ng HTML page as well as nagdi-display din siya ng iba't ibang file format, no? Ng ibang view, no? For example, PDF and XML. Okay? The controller, as the name implies, controls the application logic and acts as the coordinator between the view and the model. And controllers receive input from users via the view, then work the model to perform specific action. So yung controller, siya yung nagko-connect sa view at saka sa model. Okay? So ang example nito, halimbawa sa Facebook login web page nila, 'di ba, may mga input box wherein doon tayo nagpapasok nating username at password. So yun yung nagko-control, no, nung input box na yon at saka nung mga object doon, controller, no. And then yung view, siya yung nagdi-display ng mga controls and necessary functions ng isang web page. And then yung model, kinukuha ni controller yung data galing sa model at dinidisplay naman ni view. Okay? So that's how the MVC for web development works, no? So what's new in ASP.NET MVC4? This book explores the framework in depth, showing the features and functionality. So yun nating didiscusin, no? Yun ang dapat nating matutunan, no? Yung kung ano yung features and functionality ng MVC, no? So to discuss that, ito yung following features niya, no? Asynchronous controllers, no? Pag sinabing asynchronous, ibig sabihin hindi kasabay, no? Or hindi siya sync. Pag sinabing synchronous kasi sabay na parallel na nangyayari, no? But asynchronous, pwede nating ihiwalay ang isang processing ng isang data, no? So Internet Information Server, IIS, processes each request it receives in a new thread. So each new thread ties up one of the finite number of threads available to IIS, even if the thread is sitting idle. No? Throughout the use of asynchronous controllers, you can tell the framework to free up the thread that is processing your request. So under na asynchronous controllers, yung mga threads na yon, hindi sila sabay na nagpa-process at pwede nating i-hold yung mga process para ibigay ang bagong data na ipaprocess nila. No? So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng asynchronous controller. No? Display modes, a growing number of devices internet connected and ready to serve your site, and you need to be ready for them. So the data displayed in the devices is the same as the data displayed in desktop devices, except the visual elements need to take into consideration the smaller form factor of mobile devices. So yung display modes, kasi pag minsan may malaking screen na device ngayon, pwede natin display sa widescreen, no? Sa TV, pwedeng sa laptop. So ang screen ng laptop mas maliit sa widescreen ng TV, as well as yung cellphone. No? So yung nagko-control noon, yung feature na yon, yung function na yon, yun yung display modes. Okay? So merong ganun may feature na ganun yung ASP.NET MVC para yung website natin pwedeng mag-display ng information, no, sa iba't ibang screen. Okay? Nang hindi naapektuhan yung kanyang image quality. Next, we have the bundling and minification. So, ibig sabihin nito, yung bundling minification is para mapabilis, no, yung access natin mga data, no, pinifeed o dinidisplay ng ating web application. Okay, may feature ang MVC ng bundling and minification, no. Ito yung concept ng script and styling and minification. Okay? So ina-arrange lang niya bago niya i-display, ibigay, no, dun sa view mode nung ating web application, no, ay minify niya yun, no, medyo kino-combine niya at pinapaliit yung file size and also the mode of display. Web API, so yung Web API kasi may ganyan na MVC, so ibig sabihin nito integrated yung ating pagpo-process at pagdi-display at pagbibigay ng information, no? Kahit ano pang format yan, pwede niyang i-process, no? Kasi integrated siya, no? Kahit pa yan ay Excel, for example, or database, no? Or siya ay naka-document type na file, no? Yan, pwede niyang i-display yon or i-process. Another information about MVC, it is an open source, no? Pag sinabing open source, yung mga code niya available sa internet, no? Pwede nating gamitin, pwedeng baguhin, pwede tayong mag-suggest ng mga upgrades, no, doon sa code. So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng open source. Introduction to eBuy is an example application, no, na didiscussin natin for the whole course. Okay? So titingnan natin kung paano siya gagawin, kung paano yung tumatakbo yung kanyang code. So kung paano yung pagpo-program, no, in a real world scenario. So pag-aaralan natin, yun yung ating example application, no, si eBuy. Okay? See you sa midterm video lesson, okay?